Hey there, today is Monday, September the 12th. I'm glad you joined us today to read the Bible together. Hopefully, you've already been working through the daily reading plan today. There's two passages. One is Isaiah 45 through 48, and the other is 1 Corinthians 13. Now, we've been walking now for the better part of a year. We're in the ninth month now, kind of talking through the Bible, and as we've gone through the year, we've included more and more voices in that conversation. Now, when I'm on here, I tend to walk through the Old Testament passage. Others of our staff and voices on here do things a little bit differently occasionally, but today I wanted to pause my trend, and I wanted to actually talk about 1 Corinthians 13, if that's all right. Isaiah 45 through 48, you can rest assured, read it yourself, but just understand that in there, God is calling people back to himself constantly, over and over again. In 1 Corinthians 13, though, he has a word, an instruction, a call to action for you today, right now. I'm going to read a little bit of this. In 1 Corinthians 13, Paul, the apostle, is writing. He says, "If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal." I don't know about you, but I have had enough children in my home. Remember, my wife and I are foster parents. We've had nearly 30 kids now in our home. I've had enough kids come through my home that I know the value of losing the noisy toys. Maybe you know as well. The toys that are going to make loud, obnoxious sirens and clangs and things. And every time we get to a holiday, somebody inevitably in my life, a family member or a friend says, "I think I'm going to get the littlest one, a drum set." I say, "Absolutely not. For the love of all that is good in this world, do not do that." Paul says, "If I speak loudly, confidently, boldly, in any language, but I do not have love, all I am is a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I do not have love, then my words are obnoxious. They are like that noisy toy." And I wonder if our Father says, lose that thing, lose those words, lose that toy, for the love of all that is good, lose it. We don't want to be obnoxious before the Lord. We want to be people who are effective and efficient, who are well-meaning, good-acting servants, faithful to God, to his kingdom. If I don't have love, I'm only a resounding gong, a clanging cymbal. I'm not effective. He says down through here, now, what is love? He goes on to verse 4. I'm going to jump down just a little bit. Maybe you've heard this before. You probably have heard this read at a wedding. And yes, I have read it in many weddings that I have performed. However, this is really not meant to be written solely to couples who are married or getting married. This is meant for every single person who's a follower of Jesus. This is how we live. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. It does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. It goes on to talk about love in here. I just want quickly today, without too many words, to remind you, if you're going to work, and you are talking a big game about yourself, God, church, family, anything at all. If you are talking a big game and you want a reputation as someone who is nice and neat, but then you're going around in break rooms and behind closed doors and you are tearing people apart with harsh, brutal, cold words, you don't have love. And the people you work with are listening to a resounding gong, a clanging cymbal. But more importantly, your Father in heaven is looking at the same thing. If you are a follower of Jesus, then you have been called to love the people you work with. You've been called to love the people you go to school with. You've been called to love the people that live next door or down the street. You've been called to love people who look different, have a different color than you, a different ethnicity than you, a different language than you. You've been called to love people who have immigrated to your nation, legally or illegally. You have been called to love people who employ you and who you employ. You have been called to love people who have hurt you and that you have hurt. You have been called to love people no matter what. Jesus says all of the law and all of the prophets is summed up in these two things. Love God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Paul says, if you speak in any language with any words, but you do not have love, you are an obnoxious, clanging cymbal. And like a parent with a small child, people are trying to shut up the noise. I want to encourage you today. Don't be obnoxious noise in the world, but be a force of healing and of hope. Have love. Treat the people around you with love. This is not just your spouse or your kids. Every single person. Love them well. I hope today is a fruitful day for you. And until I see you again, you are sent.